Today I want to talk about Nvidia's upcoming Q4 earnings. We will take a look at analyst expectations around EPS and revenue, and I want to leave off by drawing some comparisons between Nvidia and Tesla and talk about what the next 5 years could look like for Nvidia. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe. Nvidia in the last year has returned over 230%, and it gets even crazier when you look at the last 5 years, as this stock is up over 1700%, and this is driven a lot by the AI boom that we have seen over the course of the last year and a half. And analysts expect this AI hype to have continued into the fourth quarter. They have Nvidia announcing their earnings on February 21st, coming in with an EPS number of $4.53 and putting up a revenue of $20.27 billion. And this revenue estimate comes in line with guidance that Nvidia provided in their third quarter earnings announcement of $20 billion plus or minus 2%. And an average EPS estimate of $4.53 is an incredible move up from the EPS they posted a year ago of 88 cents. We are talking about a 5x on their EPS numbers over the course of the last year. And this estimate could even be low compared to where Nvidia will post their numbers, because we can see that of the last 4 quarters, they have beat analyst expectations each quarter, with one of those quarters coming in with an almost 30% beat on analyst expectations. Here we can see Nvidia's GAAP EPS numbers over the last 5 years. On a quarterly basis, they have grown their EPS from 45 cents all the way up to $3.71 in the third quarter of 2023. And that has led Nvidia's trailing 12-month EPS number to hit $7.58. And analysts aren't expecting EPS growth to slow down anytime soon. For 2024, their average EPS estimate is $12.33, with a low of $12.14 and a high of $12.70. For next year in 2025, they're expecting EPS to grow to $21.16, with a low estimate of $15.08 and a high estimate of $28.89. To put that in perspective, analysts are expecting EPS to grow 3.5x for the current year and then 1.7x for next year. And top-line revenue numbers have grown very nicely for Nvidia as well. We can see that back in 2018, they were putting up around $3 billion of revenue per quarter. However, by 2023, they have grown those numbers to 13.5 and then $18.1 billion per quarter. And now in the fourth quarter, they're expected to hit $20 billion of revenue in a single quarter. And trailing 12-month revenue has grown from around $12 billion in 2018 to over $44 billion in 2023. And for the current year, analysts have Nvidia putting up around $60 billion of revenue. However, for next year, they're expecting that number to grow to around $95 billion, with a low estimate of $81 billion and a high estimate of $135 billion. The question for me is, when do these numbers start slowing down? Again, year over year for revenue, they're putting up numbers that are growing at 200%, up 34% quarter over quarter, and EPS numbers are growing at an incredible rate, up over 1200% year over year and 50% quarter over quarter. And a lot of this additional growth that Nvidia has seen over the last couple of quarters has come from data centers. They have seen their quarterly revenue hit $14.5 billion from data centers alone, with companies like Google, Microsoft, and Oracle all focusing on growing their cloud business. This has led to an influx of demand for Nvidia's chips. Another big focus that has led to demand for Nvidia's products has been AI. We are seeing companies like Google and Microsoft compete fiercely to be the #1 players in this industry. And what that ultimately means is they need the latest and greatest chips to stay competitive. When I look at Nvidia's business as well as their stock price, I find a lot of comparisons between them and Tesla. And the biggest thing that concerns me about Nvidia going forward is competition and weakness in the market. Those are two things that we have seen from Tesla over the last 1 to 2 years that has led to their stock price trading down over 50%. When you look at competition, there's the obvious second player in the market of AMD. However, there are a lot of other players that could sneak into this market, especially with how lucrative it looks to be for Nvidia. And one of those is Apple. Apple has a tendency of seeing markets where there are very high margins and coming into those markets and creating their own products. Oftentimes, they'll even hire engineers out of the existing companies that are in that market and bring them onto their team to develop their products. The second question mark is around demand and strength of the markets that they're in. Obviously, we looked at data centers, and that is a huge market for Nvidia. And right now, projections say that around 10.7% growth per year for data centers through 2030. However, will that actually hold up? And how often will these data centers need to actually turn over their chips, right? If these chips can stay for 5 years, 10 years, then there won't be much demand for new chips on a frequent basis. However, if they need to turn over these chips every 1 to 2 years, then that would be very good and very lucrative for a business like Nvidia. So when I look at Nvidia, I just have a few question marks about their business, right? I want to see how competition plays out over time, because I think there will be a lot more players that will come into this market due to the fact that the margins and everything is looking so good for it right now. However, Nvidia is the number one player. They should hold that spot. The second question is around these data centers. Is this growth going to continue, or is it going to settle out over time? Also, have they built in obsolescence to their chips, where in the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of these data centers will need to buy new chips to stay up to date? So those are questions that I have around the business, but keep in mind, do not buy a company just because some random guy on YouTube talked about it. Make sure you are doing your own research and looking into companies that meet your risk tolerance as well as your time horizon. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If it did, drop a like down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.